Hi, my name is Fawad Hamidi, and I am presenting the paper entitled Using Retrospective Surveys to Assess the Impact of Participating in an After-School Maker Learning Program on Youth. This is a collaborative project between University of Maryland, Baltimore County, and the Digital Harbor Foundation. I will start this talk with an introduction before describing our methods, participants, and measures. Then I will go into the findings, and finally I conclude with discussion and conclusion. Okay, so starting with the introduction. Making is an umbrella term that refers to a wide range of activities, including tinkering, customizing, designing, and fabricating small batch artifacts that usually require technical skills in self-directed projects. The maker movement has gained interest in the research community in the last few decades due to its possibilities for facilitating learning in informal settings. After-school maker programs can introduce engineering concepts and skills using hands-on projects that require creative problem-solving, teamwork, and persistence. They're also found to strengthen STEM job readiness and create pathways to technical careers. As these programs grow and diversify, there's a need to effectively assess their outcomes. So far, research has mostly focused on using qualitative methods such as open portfolios and self and peer assessments to look at the impact of maker learning programs. And there's a lack of empirical data on how to deploy quantitative measures that can be actually applied at scale, such as surveys and questionnaires, more effectively in this setting. This work builds on previous research that we have presented at ASEE in previous years and also at FabLearn, where we looked at the attitudes of youth towards self-reported surveys in this setting and found that they have negative attitudes and also don't find them or these assessments meaningful. These earlier research motivated us to explore different factors, including modes of deployment, on how surveys can be used more effectively. The setting for this study is a nonprofit organization offering after-school making-focused learning programs to youth, grades 3 to 12, that utilizes a pay-what-you-can model to engage underserved minorities in urban settings. So this is in Baltimore City, Maryland. And that offers technology-rich programs covering 3D modeling, 3D printing, game programming, introductory physical computing, and web development. The organization serves roughly 1,400 youth annually. Currently, assessment is conducted at the organization using a series of different methods, including written surveys and questionnaires, and also online portfolios that are created by youth to document their projects and describe them, and showcases, which are events such as the one that is shown in this photo, where youth present their projects to parents, community members, and peers in a semi-public event. Okay, so let's move on to the methods. In this study, we collected data from a total of 94 youths in 4 groups. So we had 2 incoming youth groups who were just joining their first program at the DHF, at the organization, and also 2 member youth groups who were basically member youth are more experienced youth who have completed at least one program at DHF. So we collected survey data from incoming youth and member youth during the fall of 2018 and the spring of 2019. We also conducted 2 semi-structured interviews, very short ones, with 2 member youth during the fall of 2018. So we used a series of measures, including 2 surveys within the suite of STEM-S surveys. These are, STEM-S stands for Upper Elementary School and Middle High School students' attitudes towards STEM. And this is a suite of self-reported Likert-style items that kind of capture youth interest in STEM topics, including science, math, technology and engineering, and 21st century skills. We focused on the latter 2 categories because of the context. And some sample items within this survey include: I'm good at building and fixing things. So this one is from the Technology and Engineering survey. And I'm confident I can lead others to accomplish a goal, which is from the 21st century skills. The 21st century skills basically refer to a number of critical thinking, communication, and collaboration skills. We included 2 modes of deployment for these surveys. One was kind of a traditional pre-post, where we conducted the survey twice, once before the program and once at the end. And the other mode was retrospective, which is conducted only once at the conclusion of the program. And in this mode, for each item, 2 versions of the item are presented to the participant. So as an example, here one item is: I'm confident I can lead others to accomplish a goal before this course. So this is one version that kind of asks the participants to reflect about their attitude before completing a course. And then the next one is: I'm confident I can lead others to accomplish a goal after this course. So this mode essentially collects data at one point in time, but asks the person who's taking it to think about before and after, and kind of compare in a way. Additionally, we used alternative uses test, or AUT, which is a measure that looks at divergent thinking, or the ability to come up with multiple but distinct solutions. This type of thinking is found to be a big part of creativity and also impact problem solving. The way that this measure works is that essentially the participants are presented with a series of items, and they're given some time and asked to come up with different ways that these items could be used. And then scores are awarded to unique sets of items and uses that the participants come up with. Some example items include tire and glasses. Additionally, we conducted 2 short semi-structured interviews with 2 member youth. All right, now we're going to the findings of the study. With respect to the STEM-S surveys, there was a very big difference between the results that we found between the modes, the pre-post mode and the retrospective mode of deploying these surveys. In the case of the pre-post mode, we saw statistically insignificant shifts for both the technology and science interest and the 21st century skills surveys, and this was for both incoming and member youth. Furthermore, the shifts were actually negative for the incoming youth. In contrast, the retrospective mode captured the statistically significant shifts for both surveys, and actually in the case of both groups, so both incoming and member youth. Another thing that to compare these measures, the technology and engineering survey actually showed a much higher positive shift than the 21st century skills, and also these effects were amplified for the incoming youth rather than member youth. With respect to the alternative uses test, we saw some gains across the pre-post results for incoming youth. However, statistical analysis showed that these differences were not significant. In interviews, youth stated that with self-reported surveys, they have difficulty identifying a clear frame of reference to compare their performance with. And also they describe that these type of surveys seem pointless from their perspective because they have a hard time comparing or interpreting the results either with their own performances or with others' performances. Okay, so we come to the discussion and conclusion. A key takeaway from our study is that the retrospective mode of deploying self-reported surveys is an effective way to assess youth attitudes in maker settings. The reason for this is that, first of all, this mode provides an opportunity for youth to reflect on the shifts in their attitudes with a clear point of reference, and they can kind of compare their attitudes before and after a program. Additionally, it reduces the number of necessary surveys. So in the pre-post mode, there's a survey before and the survey after a program, whereas with the retrospective, there's just one survey at the conclusion of a program. And reducing this number can help with survey fatigue, which is known to contribute to negative attitudes towards surveys. We also found that there is a need to contextualize self-assessments for youth in informal learning and specifically maker settings. This is in relation to the youth describing the surveys as pointless because they didn't see how they can benefit from taking them if they don't see the results and they can't compare the results with themselves or with others. However, in the retrospective mode, they could still kind of reflect on their own changes that have experienced, and that could be beneficial and kind of take away from this pointlessness that they had explored. So this kind of points to a need to make sure that assessment activities that are designed and deployed in these spaces are aware of the context in which they are used. Finally, we recommend including youth perspectives in designing and deploying assessments. In our case, we conducted interviews with a small number of the more experienced youth about what they thought of the assessments, and this provided insight into what were some of the issues. In the future, this can go further, and there could be focus groups or even like a panel or a small group of youth that can meet and kind of think about how to conduct assessments over time, especially for some of the more senior member youth. This could be an effective way of involving them in decision making in the programs, and also kind of including that perspective that might be very different from those of educators or parents or researchers. And with that, I would like to thank you very much for your attention, and I'm happy to take questions. Also, please feel free to reach out to me via email. I would like to also thank NSF, the National Science Foundation, for providing funding for this research. Thank you.